Hello, viewers, and welcome back to bRanN's Mapping Journal. I swear, I never really remember what this is called. So we are very close to being done. I don't know what to call this system. I was calling it bRanN's Mini CTM RPG system. Very basic name. But I kind of like the idea of MERP, or could also be pronounced as MERPage. Kind of sounds like the word derpage. I like that fact. It's a silly name, but definitely one that people might remember just because it's so silly. Definitely if we just call it RPG game engine, there's going to be a lot of things out there that probably do something similar. So let's hop into this world. Basically what I've done is I've taken all the code that I've developed and written, and I put it in here, and it goes etc. The very last chain, you'll see the circle. That is because that is facing up. And so these actually do go in the direction that they're pointing. This one is pointing up so that I don't know if it can, but this is being activated, and that's not making it. So this has its own signal, plus it's getting another signal. I'm sure it wouldn't matter. I don't think it can be activated more than it already is going to be activated with the purple block, the repeating block. But just to have clean code, I just thought it'd be fun to have it like this. And it's actually in here in order that it's in my document, which means if I need to modify something, I can kind of quickly find where it is without having to have it labeled. And so this is all the code that I've been working on for all the classes in here. And this is just a string of stuff that makes the scores, the scoreboard, objectives, class, run, jump. What else we got? Arrow damage. Some of these are connected to things. Some of them aren't. You see here, dummy, that's the type. Dummy means it's only going to change when I change it with one of the other codes. Let's find another one. That's a dummy. Dummy E with an extra E. I did not save that, though. Stat.sprint 1 centimeter. This is a game stat. And so whenever I sprint, this is going to be affected. I have quite a few like that. In here, I also have command blocks that tick those down, and that just makes it so, I think I've talked about this in a previous episode, that just makes it so I can tell when the player's sprinting and crouching, and based on those facts, I can activate things. But this is the game code. So this was phase 1, right? Get the game code all in place. Now, since then, just doing this, I've been thinking of other ideas, and some of the ideas are from your comments. One suggestion was for the archer, why not make it so you have a strength bonus when you're holding a bow? Well, actually, that's something that we could do. I haven't looked into what the command would be. It would probably take me 2 minutes just to look it up, see if it's possible, see how it would be implemented, think about how could the player abuse this? Is it easily bugged or broken? I think about that for all these. Here's how it works. What other ways could I make these trigger? Is that going to be something that the player is going to take advantage of? If it is there something that I could put into place to prevent that? For example, one of the classes has a shield, a power shield, some extra hearts, and based on holding a potion, I talked about this in just a previous episode, in the offhand, it gives you that potion effect. So you could, in theory, have a couple potions, just flip through them back and forth, switching them, and kind of have each one for a second. So then do I want to implement a system that would make it so as soon as you switch this item out, it kills that effect? And I decided against it because what would happen is if you also wanted to use actual potions, then I would be killing potion effects from potions that you legitimately drank. So those are the types of things that I think about. So this would be considered for me phase 1. I feel like there's 3 main phases, and I'm having actually quite the difficult time going to phase 2. Phase 2 is where we put this in a world, we set up an area where the player spawns, and then they go through There'll be some quick tutorial sections to let the player switch between the different classes at will and kind of test out some of the features, kind of really fill it out, decide which class you want to be, and make sure, because if you just go in blind, here, pick something, don't use it, just pick whatever sounds the best, and then you start the map, and you're stuck at this class, you're going to be happy. I also have to decide if I want to make it so the player can switch the class later on in the map, or if they need to stick with who they start as from the beginning. I don't like the idea of forcing the player to be stuck with a specific class, especially if you pick something you think it's going to be cool. You get through half the map and you decide, you know what, I really am not having fun with the loadout on this character, how it's set up, how it feels. It's not turning out to be what it is. The thing is, every class should have positives and negatives. So there's a good thing to being in the archer type class. There's a bad thing to being the archer type class. If you're not forced to go along with the negatives, then it's not really challenging. So I feel like the whole point of a class-based system is that you get to play a character who can do things that normally you can't, but they all have downsides. So I think the point I'm trying to make is if you play the archer type class or the warrior type class or the barbarian-like class, there's going to be areas that are easy for you, but there's also going to be areas that are challenging, and that's going to make it so your experience is varied. That's going to give your experience moments of rest and moments of stress, and that's going to be the most fun, where if you can switch classes very easily, then what that creates is you have to, it's like the Pokemon effect, right? I don't even know if that's a term, but it's going to be a term because we just used it. You have to figure out which character is the best for each area, and you're almost punished if you're not able to easily assess that. And it's not like there's going to be a clear clue as to which class would do best for which area. So I feel like I want to make it so you pick a class and then you're stuck with it. That's the whole point. Okay. So now I'm stuck in, we need to make a place where you teleport into, and it has an area that you can go off to and test each class, get a feel for it, kind of decide ahead of time before you start the map. And then I also have to make it in a way so that once you start the map, you don't go back to that place. Or if you do go back to that place, you can't then go back into the testing area. And I might do that with teleports, but I don't like teleports. So these are all the things. These are all part of what I would call phase 2. And so that's what I'm dreading, because you get to a point, like let's go back to phase 1. You get to a point where you know what you want to do, basically. I want a class system. But that part has so many possibilities, so many different directions you can go, so many different design decisions you can make. You get to the point where you start to nail some of that down. You start to make some decisions. You start to say, we definitely want to do this. We definitely want to do that. Okay, and that makes a lot of the other options impossible and helps define your path. Then you get to the point where you know where you want to go. You know how you want to design it. You know how you want to move forward. And you still can come up with a lot of creative things along the way. And then you get to the point where everything's nailed down. It's very rigid. And then it's almost monotonous, because then you are, for example, placing a block, moving your mouse off screen, grabbing the code for the next one, pasting that in there. Then it gets to the part where it's just monotonous. There's no more discovery. There's no more decision. It gets boring. So I powered through that. And then you're at the start of the next phase, phase 2. Now we have this whole new wide variety of possibilities, and it just makes my brain go crazy. So I started working on books. I found an amazing book generator, and I needed an easy way to design some feedback for the player. And with mouse over, I can have these stats. I can have them shortened. If you don't know what they mean, you can mouse over them. And then I decided for fun to make it seem kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons or some other pen and paper where this character has chosen stats, abilities, what would we call them? Perks. And by mousing over them, it'll kind of tell you what it does. But I ran into some problems like this where it's over here, and I'm getting around that by kind of redoing some of it, making it so they're smaller and they have a set size and that sort of thing. And I really like how this is coming out, but then I'm agonizing over the details. How do I want the text laid out? How do I want it spaced? What abbreviations do I want to use? What do I want to call them? Do I want to have them color-coded or not? Like, this is prerequisites NA, but then later on I decided, you know what? That part should be colored. Prerequisites no armor. So it just makes it feel better, but then I have to go back and change this, and I agonize over details. But the code is done, so that's fantastic. We're that far along, and then I made this little thing just for fun so I can, like, seal it away. Here's my little code box, and we'll bury this in the map somewhere in spawn so it stays active. And as far as I know, it should be creating no lag. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. But yeah, so I'll be testing and tweaking and testing and tweaking. And eventually I'll get something that's a little more polished. And then I can even put up a download for anyone that just wants to download it and play, have a little playground. Maybe I'll pop it into a regular world. So you could play a regular survival series as one of the classes if you so desired. But yeah, so I just wanted to show this off. And I'm now at the point where I'm rambling. So be sure to post your feedback, thoughts, suggestions, comments, questions below, and I will do my best to answer them. And if you come up with some crazy idea that can be implemented and it seems like it'd be fun and fits with this, then hey, let's see what we can figure out. Just because I have this done doesn't mean it has to be set in stone. It's not the final copy. It's not the final copy until, well, ever. Until I'm sick of updating it. That's when it's the final copy. Until next time, this has been bRan. I will see you next video. Have a great day.